Hi, it's Leah, Cerice, and Christiana here. We are the hosts of Soul Soothing Podcast, where we explore the calm, intelligent side of ambition, helping women business owners settle their minds, simplify their lives, systematize their businesses, build their support, and scale income with integrity.
This episode is brought to you by Soul Soothing Co., where we help women founders build AI-enhanced systems and self-managing teams that restore spaciousness, flow, and creative freedom. If you are tired of being a woman entrepreneur who has built a business that works, but it feels like the business is running you, you can visit us at soulsoothingco.com to book a quick chat with us, or you can email us at hello@soulsoothingco.com.
And we're joined today by Chad from Rise 25, who has done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs and CEOs. And we're flipping the script today, and he's going to be interviewing us. Chad, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much. Great to be here, guys. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys again. In our previous episode, we left off kind of talking about the benefits of rest, especially for entrepreneurs who feel like they need to go like crazy, 80 hours a week. I'm letting people down if I don't work 80 hours a week. I'm letting myself down, whatever. And we were talking about how that's maybe not necessarily the right way of thinking about it. So let's get into kind of to rest and discuss how it might give a relational edge to a person who's willing to take advantage of the opportunity to rest. So let's say, my wife works like crazy. She probably has the same attitude that we're talking about. And I love like seeing her relax. I'm like, thank God you're finally sitting down. And she can't believe that I'm saying that to her. She's like, oh, I thought you were going to judge me or something. What do you think changes in us, Cerice, when rest becomes witnessed by somebody else, when somebody else sees you not going and going and going?
There's a lot of things that happen when, we're witnessed. One is that sometimes it's very hard for us to acknowledge how much we needed that to A, rest, and to B, have someone else's approval and permission for resting, because we tend not to give it to ourselves. And additionally, if we flipped the script on somebody else, we would encourage them to rest. We would give them that space, but it's so hard for entrepreneurs, and especially women entrepreneurs, to give themselves that space. So it really just compounds the nervous system relaxation, I think.
So Christiana, why would this is interesting that I just talked about this. Why would the presence of a man or even an authority figure make rest feel less safe for a woman?
Of course, we can generalize. But it was just really revealing that when we talked, three generations, one would think that things have changed, and yet we expressed the same discomfort, even when our men are extremely supportive. And I've also talked to women saying, no, I don't have a problem with it. But I think a lot of women feel judged or judge themselves, so the man might not do anything. Like you said, you're super happy when you see your wife rest, but it is breaking the traditional role of keeping the household together and doing this and putzing here and doing, and it puts into question the assumption that we have to be useful in order to be loved.
So Leah, what would it look like to stay in some kind of like luxurious rest, but still feel competent, powerful, and trustworthy?
I think you would ultimately show up so much better for your business because you've had the time to reset your mind, reset your nervous system. You're not reacting to things within your business. You're not like reacting to your team or reacting to a client, but you come back from this place of calm and ease, which just makes a huge difference in how you're show up in your leadership. So there's that piece of it. But there's also the part of enjoying your work instead of resenting it, and instead of showing up and being like, oh my God, I have to work until 9 o'clock tonight because this is blah, blah, blah is due but you actually like show up with this different attitude and different desire to get to do your work that you love to do. And the reason that you created the business was so that you could do what you enjoy doing. And so instead of feeling that resentment, you show up and are happy and your work feels good.
So let's move from usefulness to enoughness, Cerice. How do you define enoughness in the context of women's entrepreneurship?
So it's really a very personal definition, I think, for everyone, but for me anyway, it is this self-contained sense of whoever I am in the moment, however I am showing up, is okay. I don't have to change. I don't have to be more. I don't have to be different. I think so many of us, and I have personally struggled with this deeply, and it's ingrained in us from childhood. You're so smart. Why aren't your grades better? Why are you talking so much? You should be paying attention. You should show up and be quiet and respectful and not outspoken and, exuberant in a room. So we're told from an early age to diminish ourselves. And then when we show up in a work culture, especially as an entrepreneur, not only do we have to make sure that everyone else around us is happy and taken care of, and our business is taken care of, and our clients are taken care of, and our team has to show up, and it just starts to fray on every single nerve we have, but our sense of self becomes very conflicted. And when we show up from this place of enoughness, where we have enough time because we have enough support, we have enough mental bandwidth because we've had enough rest, we get to be who we are at our truest, deepest sense of self. And we get to become who we choose to be rather than who we've been told to be.
So, Christiane, Cerice just said she struggled with that for years. Maybe I'm sure she speaks on behalf of a lot of people. People probably hear that and they think, well, that sounds like a nice idea or concept, but not really happening. What can people do? What practices can people take to move that from a concept to an actual state of mind, state of being?
Yeah, that's a really great question. We all have thresholds, right? So nervous system thresholds, fear thresholds, courage thresholds. So when we start to practice to rest or to say, I actually did enough, if we just want this to be some mantra or some, something we say but we don't believe, then it's kind of useless. But if we just, let's say, felt this for a minute, and that's the threshold we have before we have to jump off again the chair or put our butt back in the chair and keep working. So really it's a practice. You don't ever arrive at enoughness, you practice enoughness. So I would say start slow and start when you're not supercharged, so that gradually you get just a little bit more comfortable with it, but also know that as you practice, you're probably very uncomfortable. At least I am.
So let's say, Leah, that you've been practicing it and you're not feeling totally unuseful at some point. When does enoughness, or how does enoughness change kind of the way you might lead or create or relate?
Well, I think the first thing that happens is that and for me, it was the sense of relief of like I could let go, like this thing that was sitting on my shoulders was like, ugh, I got it off, and I could like take a deep breath and be like, okay, where I am right now is where I am meant to be. Like this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And so there's this lightness that comes up with it, and that you can show up with this lightness. And I think it's different for everyone, but for me, it was that I just put a lot of pressure on myself with it. And so when I removed that pressure, there was this sense of urgency that also was removed with it. And so showing up for my partners and for my team, and just being able to not, again, it comes back to even that resentment, like not feeling that like we have to hurry up and get to this place. And it's like, we let go of that. And then it just brings this ease back into things of, okay, we can just go and flow and we can work in the way that we're meant to be working and going in this direction. We always talk about how when you let things go, how things just fall together, right? Like, and it's not always perfect and things don't always happen like that, but if you're trying to like force the puzzle pieces together, it makes it a whole lot harder than taking the time to search for the right piece and putting it in.
So, Cerice, the culture of a business or a company or whatever often starts at the top. The leader kind of sets the culture. And if the leader is starting to try to embrace enoughness, what might the culture look like in a business community? If, an enough culture, what might that look like?
I mean, the end result is people feeling empowered in their workplace, feeling seen and validated, being able to show up at their best every day. And when I say that, we have to give grace for the fact that your best changes from day to day, so one day you might be a little bit under the weather and your best is being there and doing some menial tasks that you needed to get done that are easy. And then, you recover and you are able to show up and just knock things out of the park, all day long. But there also becomes a sense of trust within the business and the culture, where you understand how people are going to respond. You're not afraid of people, your team, your leader flying off the handle over something that maybe isn't such a big deal, but that, because everybody's so stressed and, trying to hold everything together, that one little thing that is the straw that broke the camel's back triggers, some sort of major outburst from somebody. It makes work feel safe, because I think so many people out there in their jobs and in their businesses don't feel safe in the company culture. And it gives people the freedom to enjoy their work. And ultimately, when that's the case, the company thrives even more. You're able to retain A players, B players, you're able to attract more of them. And, the company just begins to thrive, and it fosters that, cycle of everyone doing better, feeling better, and the company succeeding more.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So the company, people start to feel safe, and the leader is practicing and embracing and maybe showing by example this concept of enoughness. But down deep, maybe as an overachiever or an entrepreneur or a go-getter, she still doesn't feel really that safe in her own mind. What would you say to her, Cerice, Christiana, as kind of a piece of advice?
Well, our company is called Soul Soothing Company for a reason. And that is really our goal, is to help everybody involved, including our team members, to just be kind to themselves, to forgive ourselves for these unbelievably unrealistic standards that we set ourselves. And Kristin Neff coined the self-compassion method or approach. And I would say start, even if you don't believe it, start to befriend yourself a little bit and see what that feels like. And maybe you get addicted to actually being nice to yourself. I think, to me, if at the end of my life I can look back and I've helped people end that inner battle in their heads, this self-inflicted punishment that we do to ourselves, then wow, I would be delighted with my life. So that would really be my advice, is to practice self-compassion and not compare it with I'm letting myself off the hook, which apparently is often a big mix-up. If I'm self-compassionate with myself, I won't get anything done anymore. That's not really what happens at all.
Leah, what is a way that somebody could start practicing enoughness, like maybe just a small, tangible way?
I think that the first thing for me that I had to do was recognize what that enoughness piece was. And is it around money? Is it around what's causing that feeling of pressure that I'm putting on myself? And when I got to that, it was a lot easier to, for the moment, right? Like it comes back, and just like Christiana said, it's a practice. Like right now I might say I am enough. What we have is enough. What we're doing is enough. And then later tonight I might be like, oh my God, we have to do more. So there's this sense of like knowing that it's okay to kind of fall back, but having that but like knowing where that sits in your body and in your heart, like where does that piece come from, so that when it comes back and when you feel that coming back, you can recognize it and say, it's okay that I feel this way right now. I can come back to this later and know where I need to come back from it from.
Cerice, any final thoughts on this concept of enoughness?
Finding that place for yourself can be a very big challenge. And like Christiana said, it requires a lot of self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
It can feel very uncomfortable at times. That's something that we've talked about as we've built the community that we have, the Soul Soothing Business Circle, is that, you know, once you get all of the pieces in place to support yourself, to have this spaciousness in your life and your business, to unpack enoughness for yourself, it will take time to get there. And as Leah was saying, you know, some days are going to be easier than others, and give yourself grace.
What about you, Christiana? Any final thoughts?
I think Cerice just said it so well. It's well, there's a part. So we all three are horsewomen, and we're all very aware of the fact that the horse learns not while it's doing something, but while it's resting. And that, I think, is just an ingrained, like the nice thing about sitting on a horse is that the feedback is so imminent, like immediate. You know, you ask the horse to produce some effort, and then you let it rest, and then you do it again, you realize, oh, something changed inside the horse. So if the horse can do it, we can, right? Because it's a limbic system process. It's not an intellectual process. So if we understand that rest and digest, the being in parasympathetic state is actually really good for us, then maybe that makes it just a little, like, at least it justifies the difficult process.
Hey, Leah, as we wrap things up here, can you describe what it's like to take a breath and realize or feel what it's like to stop trying to be useful?
It is a little uncomfortable at first, I think, is the first step of it. And like being willing to, and everybody said, I always hated it when people would say, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. And there was never anybody who told me how I'm supposed to do that. Like, how am I supposed to become okay with being uncomfortable? I'm just supposed to sit here and like, it always bothered me. And so there was this like sense of like, for me it's about like understanding where it comes from and like being like that aha of like, oh, that's why I feel the way that I feel, and then being able to kind of unpack that, and that makes the discomfort for me less uncomfortable, right? So I understand. I can actually sit down and like pick apart the pieces of it instead of just sitting there and being like, well, I hate everything about the way I feel right now, but I'm just supposed to sit here and be okay with it. So, but once you get past that part of it, it's just, like I said before, it's this kind of sense of relief of pressure. Like I don't have to go, do, take care of this person, be emotionally ready for that person when they need me, also be leading the team, and my partners are relying on me, and there's this sense of like when people need me to show up for them, the way that I show up for them is enough. And it is enough for myself and it's enough for them. Um, and I know that confidently because I've just grown as a person into knowing that that I am there for the people who I need or who need me, and the way that I do that is enough for them. And I don't always need to do more and put my emotional but well-being on the line for that.
Okay, awesome. Hey, Leah, Christiana, Cerice, great to talk to you as always. Thanks so much for having me today and sharing all of your thoughts.
Thank you,
Chad.
Chad. Thank you very much.
So long, everybody.